Hey guys, I'm really excited about this week's RADIUM POW because I get to talk about a synth that I've been using for over 10 years that just started to get updated again and revised. And it's the TimewARP 2600. Let's dive right into this beast. It's just a lot of fun. We're gonna have fun. Let's go! First thing you see when you open up the TimewARP 2600. It's this new GUI interface, which is this blue interface. If you're used to the version that came out like 14, 15 years ago, then you can go to this little gear wheel here and you can change the color back to the classic TimewARP 2600. I think that was kind of dope. There's also other GUI UI themes. I guess they call it UI themes. Blue Marvin, Gray Meary, Gray Meanie, Black and Orange. I'm gonna go to Blue Marvin because it's easier for me to read. Now let's go through simple features. I'm not gonna read the manual to you. That's not what the RADIUM POW is all about. RADIUM POW is really about me showing you how I freak these plugins and these synths and what I like most about them. What I like most about this plugin is it's cinematic. You can use it on scores. You could use it on records, especially considering this is modeled after a 1970s synth. I'll show you something that I cooked up that's really modern. All sounds using just this synth, and the drums are obviously just like a drum loop. Kind of a UK garage vibe, but pretty modern, right? And this is all from a 1970s synth. By the way, if you guys wanted to buy the analog version of this synth, I found one on reverb.com, the ARP 2600, mid 1970s, and it's only $15,000. That's so crazy to me. So you don't have to spend $15,000, which is awesome news for you, because the guys at Out Ware made this. This is the only ARP 2600 rendition that's actually endorsed by the original designer, Alan R. Perlman. Okay, so just so you guys know, this is like the replica of the ARP 2600. If that's what you're looking for, that's what you're getting with this, or as close as possible. Let's just go through the sections really quick. But up here, starting from left to right, we have envelope followers, ring modulator, got the preamp. We have the VCO 1, 2, and 3, with VCO 2 and 3 having pulse width modulation. You also can hover over any of these and it'll tell you exactly what it is. You hover over this fader, it's gonna tell you. It's gonna give you these little tags that'll show you exactly what it is, all right? So we have 3 oscillators. They're all voltage controlled oscillators, 1, 2, and 3. And then the next section, which is the highlight of this synth, this is really what makes this synth sound the way this synth sounds, is the VCF, the voltage controlled filters. The voltage controlled filters, you're going to have your filter coarse filtering right here up the top. You have the fine filtering here. So once you kind of coarsely put the filter in, then you can get even more honed in. And then you have the resonance, which is the Q, right? How much does it peak? How much does it whistle? How much does it sing, baby? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to resonate. That's really what makes, I think, most analog synths sound different from each other, are the voltage controlled filters and the different kinds of filters that they use. So perfect example, the Moog. The Moog typically has a ladder filter in it. The Juno 106 behind me, this has its own filter, right? It just sounds, it's like a stepped filter, and it sounds different than any of these other filters. This is no different, and these are modeled very precisely to the analog version of the ARP 2600. Let's just hear them in action. I just want to play this bass part and I want to mess around with these filters with you. It's like spanking water. It's so wet. sounds so good. Sounds so analog. And I have a bunch of analog synths sitting in front of me. Like, this sounds analog to me. And if it doesn't sound purely analog, it's super musical still. That's the key to this synth. The biggest thing that I love about it. All right, so ADSR envelope, simple, right? You have ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, release. Then you have the VCA, the voltage controlled amplifier. And then you have some effects over here, just reverb and a mixer. And then a pan and an output left and right. At the bottom, you're gonna get the LFO, the low frequency oscillator, which you can modulate anything with, right? By simply, I can check my patch, bro. Take the LFO to the Tito-toe. Gotta put it in the meter bow. The Dorito go, Joe. I don't know. Talk a lot of nonsense. The cool thing is like when you take this and you're like, where does this go? Where does it go? I don't know, dude. Wherever you want to put it, but I don't know what it's going to sound like. So, don't just go putting patches places. By the way, if you want to get rid of a patch, just pull it somewhere, like just into the abyss, and it'll go away. All right, next up, you got these voltage processors, which I don't really know what this is, to be honest with you. You would have to mess around with it and see what it sounds like, but I can see voltage processor levels and attenuations, so let's just hear it. Let's play with these. I'd imagine they'd need to be plugged somewhere, right? Like you can maybe take these and process them. I'm not really sure. I'm not a doctor of synthesis, but I do know that you can do a lot with this plugin and a lot with this synth and probably make some really crazy noises. And then the sample and hold. You know what sample and hold is? It's basically when you press something, it's not going to be affected by the ADSR. It's just going to kind of hold the sample. So if I play a note and it's like, beep, it would just hold it. That's really helpful when you have this little note auto repeat on. The auto repeat is basically going to give you a do 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 do, right? It'll just repeat the note, especially all you synth wave, retro wave kind of guys that are doing the bass that's going do 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 do, right? And you're doing it at a pace. You use the LFO speed to modulate that tempo, right? So that's what that's for. Now, here's a cool tip since you got this far into the video. Hold down Shift, and when you go to any of these faders, you can change them in these really fine tuning. It'll go at the smallest increment possible. If you don't hold down Shift, it's gonna go pretty, like it's pretty dramatic, right? Like 2, 3, 7, 5, 7, like it jumps intervals and stuff. So if you wanna get really fine with your tuning, just hold down Shift. All right, now let's go into the track. I wanna show you some of the patches and fun stuff in here. I really like this strings and pads soft line preset, and then I just tweaked it a little bit, but I'll show you what this is made up of, and let's tweak the VCF. So you can hear that's just like really musical and fun to tweak, and you could just have hours of fun just going crazy with that. Go to your presets here and you can just flip through presets if you're like, I'm not hearing anything I really want to tweak. Also, if you click this patch thing, you can go to your patches, you can import, export patches, etc. You're going to see groups, categories, patches. That's how it's built. Very simple. If you want to save a patch because you're like, I really like this. I got stoned out of my mind and I'm like, oh man, I want to tweak stuff, bro. And then you want to save it because you want to come back to it. Unlike most analog synths where you're like, oh, I'm never going to get that again. You can just go to this little hard disk and then you can save it. You can make a new group, a new category, name it, my dopest stuff ever, I'm the best, and then just make all your patches in here and save them, which is really, really handy. Obviously, you should be able to save patches, right? It's 2024, but this is cool. It's very categorized and I like that. And then next up and lastly, I wanted to show you another bass. As you can hear, this is not just like a 1970s sounding synth. You can make very modern music with this, modern sounds and textures. And these sort of things are what make the ARP 2600 so cool and unique. I think why people really like the synth and why this TimewARP 2600 is so fun and cool is that you can make stuff sound so crazy. Like, where did that come from? Otherworldly. Just even this, like, I'm just going to show you. I'm gonna take the release up on this. Just like a couple tweaks and you have a laser gun. Last thing I'll say about this synth, it is not one of those synths where you open it up and you open a preset and it like takes over everything. Right? And it's just huge and it takes over everything. This synth really fits well in productions. If you're looking for a synth that you can stack into productions and it's going to work well with songs, this is it. If you're looking for a synth that's like, you open it up and it has crazy distortion, reverb, huge, it takes up every single space of everything, and there's no room for anything, this is not your synth. That's it. I'm gonna leave a link in the description so you guys can grab it, all right? If you like the video, if you got anything out of this, if you have any questions, comments, something you wanna teach me about the TimewARP 2600 or any other analog synth, drop me a comment. Let's go, all right? I'll see you guys next time. Peace.